G'day and welcome to the Larry Lakers Dribbling Chit Chat Show. Today, one of our viewers asked the questions, is Luka like Andrew Gaze on steroids? Wow, is that a compliment to Andrew Gaze? They're both great players, 6'7", both of these players, both playing for their nation in adult company at 17 years of age. Fantastic. Both have had seasons in the competitions, the NBL, albeit for Andrew Gaze most of that time, and the NBA for Luka, but they've had 30-point averages in games with 8 rebounds, 6 assists, very similar in being such prominent players for their country. So it's a great question from Jay Foy at Basketball's a Joy, or B-Ball's a Joy. Jay Foy, welcome to the show. And crunch time for Austin Reeves continues. Austin Reeves, all the following, all the fanaticism from Lakers fans and the crowds in the Philippines. So far, it's still justified. The Lakers, they must be looking forward to the season. Fingers crossed to get him back in great condition. Now, let's have a little look at this game from Luka Doncic. Was he really Andrew Gaze on steroids, given that they played Australia and sadly knocked them out of the competition with a 91-80 win? Let's look at the points. Everyone was in fear of Luka Doncic, and he seemed to work around it. He got into foul trouble, but he got more support, I think. A lot of people liken this game to Doncic versus Giddey. Giddey looks like the heir apparent to running this Australian team. Did he live up to it? Look, he took over the game for a little section of the third quarter when Australia made a run back at Slovenia, but Luka Doncic wasn't quite the points people thought at 19, but let's have a look at what else he did. He's got Josh Giddey's also led the team in rebounds versus Mike Toby, who was the centre. And again, Australia didn't quite get that mileage out of a big. So Josh Giddey, great job on the rebounds. And to show you what a good game he's had, he stood out in 3 of these categories so far. So against Luka, the 2 of them there were also the assist leaders of their team. 4, perhaps not quite enough. Perhaps he passed it to guys who missed the shot though. Giddey, Australia didn't quite finish some of their opportunities, but Luka, 6 assists, not in your triple-double territory, either of these guys, but it does show Luka is such a prominent player for his team, carrying them, but he had more help, I thought, than anyone on the Australia team. 3 or 4 of his players stood up. And some of the stats I would thought on the first viewing, bang, 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 threes of the future, players who can hit threes, they out 3-pointed Australia. But some of the stats will be a little revealing, and we'll look at them in a moment. Giddey pops up again, showing what a good game he had, albeit just for 2 steals. And Jacob Serbasek, he had a great game as well. Just showed they had big guards other than Luka, and that also gave Australia a little bit of trouble. So if we're not just looking at the score, but looking at it quarter by quarter, Australia had yet another one of those games where they were slow out of the gate. A quick 5-0, a quick couple of points there from, I think it was 5 seconds, that tap at the win of the jump at the start, and it went over to Luka, and he got the easiest of layups, 2 points within 4-5 seconds. So they were ahead of us straight away. It was like getting a little punch in the face to start the game off from Luka very quickly, and Australia slipped behind. They were behind so early that Coach Gorgian there for Australia pretty quickly took off their big Duop Reith, and I don't know if they really recovered. He wasn't sort of confident putting him back on for very many minutes after that moment, but 28-18 the first quarter really put Australia behind the 8 ball. They managed to come back a bit in the second quarter. They didn't really make enough of the time where Luka Doncic got into some foul trouble. So you thought, well, this guy is famous for milking these soccer sort of theatrics and performances where they're flopping and trying to draw fouls and carry on towards the referees. But a couple of times they did get called there for the flop. The international referees, they were onto them to their credit, but they didn't really let Australia get anything in transition. They were pretty clever with the fouls, just avoided the unsportsmanlike foul, getting in the backcourt, clipping the player and getting the foul, but at least looking like they were reaching in. So rarely was it called unsportsmanlike, but gee, it was close. A couple of times Australia looked like taking a charge on Luka, and he's bowled people over, and just the call would have been 50-50, I think, for Gorgian. A couple of times to go, perhaps, to the video appeal, but they didn't. And Luka, he managed to stay on the court, but didn't make enough there late in that second quarter with the time off, and didn't really make enough there. They had a great third quarter, and that's where Giddey, it looked like it might be the young version of Luka versus the older version, but Giddey didn't have as well-rounded a game, but he did for a little while there slash to the bucket, and he looked like he was going to take the game over, move the ball around, space the floor, and then go. He took it to the hoop nicely. It looked like he might take charge of the game, but then the fourth quarter, they sat Luka on the bench again, and again, that's what I mean. It looked like he had more help than anyone in Australia had. A few other players stood up, not with massive scores. We'll have a look at those in a minute. But the times, the moments where they hit an important three or an important rebound, or Australia missed an opportunity, were really crucial in this game. And a couple of them back to back just meant a really bad start to the first quarter and a bad start to the fourth quarter, particularly with Luka off. We didn't make enough of that time. Might have got the first bucket, but then they got like the next 7 points. Put us again behind the 8 ball just when it looked like we were going to make a run back into this game. Got it down to 4 points difference, 2 points at one stage late in that third quarter, but it did not convert. Let's have a look at the stats team-wise to show you what we mean. The three-pointers, just when you think, hey, they really shot the ball well, they were nearly the same. Look at this, 31 to our 33. But when they hit those threes was crucial. They broke our heart. I watched it the first time, I've now watched it twice. It was painful both times, I'm sorry to say. But it really was important to go back and then have a look at the stats. The threes, they were daggers. They hit the daggers that really put Australia down, but the percentage wasn't that big a difference. But when they hit them were crucial times, and it really meant it wasn't Luka doing it all by himself. He got a couple of big wings and supporters, or they tapped a rebound, kicked it out, and look, just broke Australia's back with these at the time of them rather than the amount of them. When you watch it the first time, it's confusing, but you think, wow, they've smashed us with threes. They smashed it at the time they got those threes, very much so. Look at the 2-point differential, though, 73% on 2-pointers. It shows, too, the opportunities perhaps in close, but Australia didn't really get that in the paint, where the chances of getting a bigger percentage of shots in makes a massive difference, of course. Look at that, 50%. Normally, you'd be pretty happy with that. 50% from the floor, 33, or to be a little bit better than Slovenia in threes. You think, wow, we're in this match, but 73 from 2-pointer. That's a really good percentage, and it really told a difference, and it wasn't the only difference you thought in the eye test watching the game live. Here we go again. Free throws. You'd think, well, Australia's missed a couple. They did. There were times we were even given 3 3-pointers in a row for being clipped on the 3-point shot, and we still couldn't make all 3 at those times, despite being good 3-point shooters that were shooting them. People like Josh Green. The free throws, pretty similar. And assists, of course, you're going to get that difference if people aren't catching the ball, or if people are finishing those 2-pointers, as we saw at that pretty high clip there, you're going to get that increased percentage of assists. What about the rebounds? Again, a telling story. Wasn't too bad in the turnovers, but the rebounds, 8 more rebounds for Slovenia, certainly hurt Australia. So the percentage of shots are up and the rebounds are there. Hurts us. But turnovers, you would think, again, we've had a shocker. Wasn't a great difference at only 1. Blocks, you think, wow, we took the bigs off early because of a little bit of panic with when Slovenia jumped out so early. We had Duop Ruth off and went smaller most of the game. 1 point there towards the end. I think we should have had him back on because we went centreless. We went with Nick Kay as our biggest player for a stretch there, just trying something. We were so far behind, so we put on more people who could possibly score because we've had those problems in earlier games scoring. But block's pretty similar despite that change with bringing our own centre off, and steals, not a lot of difference there either. Let's break it down to the players and see who actually stood out here for Australia, folks. We've got Duop Ruth, as we said, got him off pretty early, only got him back on for a couple of stints. He did hit a nice three-pointer when Australia needed it. Oftentimes, he looks like our best three-point option. He's real plus-minus that in that just that short time. -7, so you can tell how damaging, I guess, to Coach Goorjian it looked like the time was there. Nick Kay, this man, you think, well, he's not that athletic on his feet. He needs to be quicker with his three-pointer. He can hit a three, though. He doesn't get you a lot of points some games like this. 3, we probably need this guy to have something like 9, 10 points at power forward, especially as a starter with 25 minutes. Just those 3 points. Not a bad clip on the percentage. He doesn't take silly shots, but look at his real plus-minus 2, despite being on for all that time in the game. Just shows what an important player this guy, Nick Kay, is. Not a massive number of rebounds during the night as well, but 7 is handy. 7 is handy, and when you look at it, it was only Giddy that was more. He is a very handy player, and time and time again he comes up being pretty close to the positive, even if it's not a lot of points that he's getting. Dante Exum, I thought, had a good game, but we needed more from Dante in the 3. We needed some 3-point shooters. I think the future is surrounding Josh Giddey with 3-point shooters, bigs that can bang, mobile bigs, and one old-fashioned big perhaps to go against the teams that might have a big old-fashioned centre, and maybe a mobile centre if we can't get those 2, 3 big 7-footers that Australia sometimes has been able to get. If we can just get one of each type, that'd be great. But the second one needs to be mobile and needs to be able to hit a 3. Both really need to be able to at least attempt a 3. At least Duop Ruth could attempt a 3, and he's shown that during this series. Josh Ingles, the legend. We didn't get enough out of Josh Ingles. 26 minutes. He only -6 on the real plus, but he just didn't hit any 3s there. Look at that, 0 from 3. At least he doesn't take silly shots. He took them in pretty good spots, but we just didn't get the 3 points. We didn't even get him to the rack, to the ring to get, say, attack that 2-pointer, which then might have given him a few free throws, and he's pretty reliable free throw shooter. So we didn't really make the best use or get the most out of Jumpin' Joe Ingles, Jinglin' Joe. Josh Green, we've injected him into the starting lineup, which I think's caused us trouble with how do we use Matisse Thybulle. We covered that a little bit in the last episode, but let's have a look at this. 23 minutes, 8 points. He got a beautiful dunk to get Australia going when we'd slipped behind so early. But we need more than this. 1 of 5 from the field goals, 1 of 3 there, and on the 2s, of course, but 0 of 2, and he's meant to be a pretty good 2 is not enough to tell whether someone's a negative or a poor 3-point shooter. But we need a little bit more from Josh Green. He's a good 3-point shooter. He's got a reasonable percentage in the NBA, and he didn't match that in this World Cup at all. So he's very good on the free throw line there. So at least that means he was attacking the ring, which is great. He's an aggressive player, and we didn't get that attack from Jinglin' Joe and get him onto the line. So 6 out of 7 there. Handy player, Josh Green. Paddy Mills, gosh, we're probably coming to the end, Astrid, as they say in Cold Chisel, but Paddy Mills, look, the most minutes out of anybody, the oldest player, the most minutes, 33 minutes. Look, if this is a last hurrah for Paddy Mill, have a look at this. 17 points, the second highest in the points. pretty good. He was forcing a few of the 2-pointers, I thought, went in, had to try a few athletic sort of under the ring, spinning high off the board, layup attempts. But 2 for 9, that's where he was forcing the ball a bit. But look at when we needed someone to hit threes, we can't keep relying on this man at his age and the athletic way he needs to play the game. But gosh, I wish I had a few more of them with the same motor and heart and stepping up when his country needs him every time. Look at this, 75% on 3 or 4 from three-pointer. And free throws, when they sent him to the line, he made sure he made the most of it, 4 from 4. Josh Giddey, this is the man they thought would take over the game, and for a little while in the third quarter, he did. We're probably right in a transition here between the Patty Mills, Josh Ingles era, and now this sort of handover, passing the baton over to Josh Giddey. But it's like we've got more NBA players than ever. It's like we've got 5 of those 4-wheel drive tyres that are like $500 each, when we used to just have $500 for the whole set on our car, plus a spare. But now we've got these expensive tyres, but they don't all go together on the vehicle. We've got to somehow get this right. I know it's not easy, but we're lucky to have this wealth of riches in that we've got more NBA players than ever playing for Australia. But how do we put these parts together and get a team that fits? Josh Giddey, perhaps with OKC. If you've got Shai Alexander, you've got 3-point shooters around you and talent and bigs, athletic. You are probably better off than you are with the Australian team, and some of that 3-point shooting for yourself, in the case of Josh Giddey, can be hidden a little bit by that team, or the space he gets perhaps to jack up a few threes, and the number of games in the season. Eventually he's got to hit 30-something% just on percentages over 82 game season. But when there's just a few games in a pool round like this, suddenly each 3 there's a bit more pressure on it. Let's have a look at him though. 25 points. Well, that's great, particularly when it looked like he was standing up in that third quarter to fire up, and it looked like he might say, look, Paddy, you've done it before for Australia. I'm going to take charge. A good percentage of field goals, but that's because we've talked about it before. He's got this sneaky ability. He's got a little bit of sneaky athleticism, a sneaky change of speed just when you think he's slow, and a little bit of length where you can get to the rim and he can go off either hand and just get a little bit of his shoulder in when you think he's a guy who doesn't take much contact. He can take a little bit and finish a little stronger than he looks at the rim. So 11 of 18 there, and this is the one that props hurts and is where he needs to get going in the future, I would imagine. 0 or 2. He's still young, though. Tim Huggs, one of our viewers, always points out from Destination Anywhere. 0 or 2. And look, he needs to be better here. 3 or 5 on the 3 throws. He needs to punish the people there, because he's going to be a player, if he doesn't get these threes, he's going to need to attack the rim and punish people that if they found him the way Luka, his opposite number in this game, can and show a talent for milking fouls and calls and getting to the line there. He was still minus 10 for the evening, but an absolute standout performance. Patty Mills, though, can't go past it. I can't get entirely distracted by this giddy performance when, look, for such a veteran, Patty Mills stepped up. Thank you, Patty Mills, for your service. Matisse Thybulle, I thought, deserved more minutes. Of course, you're thinking, we need points, but we've said it before on this podcast. This guy has a sneakier three-point shot than you realise, particularly from the corners. And teams like in Portland and in Philly, it looked like Philadelphia, where he plays in the NBA and has played before, it looks like he is reluctant to take shots, but He has a couple of times, Australia, with so few shooters, every now and then playing for Australia, he stood up and hit a three just when we've needed it. Look at this, 2 or 4, 50%. He's probably one of our best on the night there. Dyson Daniels got on for a bit of garbage time. I'd like to see him get more time too. That's probably a bit of that future transition we can talk about at another time, but he's one to look at in my books. Matisse Thybulle, though, he needs to get more minutes. We highlighted it last podcast and last YouTube that we need to get more than 12, 13 minutes out of Matisse. Look at his real plus minus there. Despite being on at times where Australia fell behind, this dude was only, it was still a +1 in his real plus. Okay, let's have a quick look at Croatia. So the opponent, we said this was the big difference. It looked like it was threes, but what was the difference was it was Luka and the support he got and the times he got it. Their bigs could shoot and their guards were biggish as well. So pretty good defence on the Australian team. Pretty good perimeter defence for a team that doesn't have great three-point shooting, at least at depth. They don't have 3 or 4 that can attack you at once. When there were times that looked like any 4 of the 5 guys on for Slovenia were a threat to hit a 3, and that was a worry. So let's have a look at him here. 25 minutes, that's good support. Anything around the double figures there is good support for Luka, and that many players in double figures, they weren't really there for Australia. When you can get 18 out of your centre, there's a big difference straight away. There wasn't 18 coming from our centre, even if you combined all 3 guys that played at centre there with Reith, big Duop Reith, and then if you put Cooks on, he didn't really get enough points there for Australia. I think he got 2 points. And then if you look at Nick Kay when they went really small, again, Nick Kay, I think we said he got 3 points. So even combined, you couldn't get what the one centre Mike Toby got there in just 29 minutes there for Slovenia. So one of the big areas. So he's hit the 8 of 10. How about that for the field goal percentage? 7 of 8 of those, of course. So what a high percentage he's got in the paint. And this is what we're saying. Bigs in the future for Australia that can at least hit or attempt. So he's only taken 2, but he's hit half of them. So straight away, the defence has to honour this guy. He can screen, pick and pop, which is what Brazil did to Australia, beating them in one of the warm-up games. Prepelic there as well. You got these guys playing in that 24, 25s and producing 24, 22, 22. Luka Doncic had support from about 5 guys plus here 16 minutes, that an 18 there that you can get. No one in Australia had that. There wasn't that sort of range of guys stepping up that were all medium bigs and bigs with a threat of hitting a 3-point shot. So have a look at this, 3 of 8. Not great percentage, but very good when as a total. Look at that. That's only 9 points, but that's a better percentage than just about anyone in Australia for the whole tournament. 37 there, a really good percentage in the NBA is 40, of course, someone like Steph Curry. So how handy in the range some of these guys showed compared to Australia, where they were a threat to hit from deep on the threes. That's got to be the future for Australia as well, if we're going to move forward in these sorts of things here. Again, people who can hit a 3 there to a 40%, look at that. Where's that for Australia? 50, although very small sample size there. Not so great there, but willing to take them. 0 from 5, and it was 1 from 8, not so great. So Dragic, the veteran, but he looked like he hit one early, and everyone thought, wow, he's back. But just that wise head on the court from the NBA veteran, 50% there from 2-point land. But that support was the difference every time. I thought another 40% there for Slovenia, that Luka, we got all this work to prepare for Luka. How are we going to stop him? How are we going to trap him? And of course, as the big rolled, they passed down to the big. So every time we trapped, we thought we were doing a great job by keeping Luka quiet. He still got away from us. But look at it, we kept him down to 2 or 6 on the 3-pointer, and pretty good percentage. He's only hit 2 or 3 on 2s, but he got to the line a lot, as he does. Milked us for 10 free throws, and look at that for punishing them when we talked about that's what Giddy's got to do in the future. 9 there as well, and he's always handy for a few rebounds, but Giddy himself rebounded well with 8 to Luka's 7. Let's have a look at other teams, because there's some exciting games in this World Cup there that Mouse in the house has asked us for. What else is happening in this World Cup? Well, have a look at this, mate. These games were so exciting. Spain, 74, Latvia. Now, this was what an upset where they came through in the last 5 minutes, really turned this game around. Davis batons, really good for Latvia. The Latvian laser, he can hit a 3. Spain, the defending world champions, surprised by Latvia. And Latvia are playing without Kristaps Porzingis with some sort of plantar fasciitis. So Spain, surprised by Latvia. What a great win that is. Now, so suddenly Spain have got to win their next game. The Dominicans were surprised by the Puerto Ricans. 102 there to 97. That's another surprise game. This game was our disappointment. Lithuania here, a great game there. They've stood up against Greece. Here's another upset in the last couple of minutes. Brazil, as they did to Australia, the fast little guard, Yago, I think his name is, zips around the top. They screen and roll down the bigs. They play more than one big, so it can pass off either way, or they pick and pop, and the big steps out as he penetrates this Yago, and he'll kick it back out. And sometimes you'll even get the ball all the way to the rim himself. He's only small, but he's so zippy. He was sort of our Paddy Mills at one stage. He's their modern day Paddy Mills, and what a game that was for Brazil. Reeves, he's back, and have a look. This was an interesting game against Montenegro. Big Vucevic, who plays for Chicago and recently renewed his contract, I think 3 at 63 years, so $20 million a year. A centre who can hit a 3, slightly shorter centre, but they played multiple bigs. Have a look across this back line here, and reasonably big guards, and they were the first team to pressure the United States. Certainly led them, I think, at even half-time they led, which is the first time in this entire competition that the US had been led. It got down to like the last 6 minutes or so, and it was a close game again. Montenegro got it back to 4, and Reeves did a little crossover step back, and it was very fancy, and then boom, the beautiful 3-pointer. Moments later, he stands up against, he's marking their second biggest player quite often down the back here, and he's held his ground against this guy and been able to steal the ball just as the help came over from Paulo Banchero. As the help came over, the guy had limited space. He's got the ball, and Reeves has stripped it off him, but Reeves has held his ground and weight and position against a much bigger player. So the Lakers have to be excited about that. The defensive stop, the crisscross dribble, step back, 3-pointer, fantastic. In crunch time, it was 72-68. You know, he misses that. They go down and get a 3. This could be anything. But he hits that 3. Suddenly this lead changes. There's 6 minutes to go. He's involved in the defensive stop. Then one of the plays moments later, they've come up onto the left, and you won't believe it, he's done after he's got this stop, moments later he's up on this side on the right wing, and he's done another little crossover dribble, but he's dribbling in. That they've jumped to him, and he's flicked it round the back, left-handed, so with his offhand, bounce pass round the back to hit a player here. I think it's Paulo Banchero, who's cut across for like the dunk finish. But it's all thanks to Reeves bringing up both the low defender and the guard defender with this dribble, and round the back, laser pass, but left-handed bounce pass round the back. It was absolutely something special. Lakers fans can be excited. Let's have a look at what's next then. Coming up, the USA 85-73, and we'll look at what's next just after this. Spain, as we know, against Latvia. That was a surprise. Germany looking strong still against Georgia. Quite a few big players for Georgia. This to me is an upset. 78 against 76 for Serbia. So suddenly now the Serbians will have to win everything they've got left here to stay alive in this. And of course, Australia, if you're feeling bad, here's some good news for you. The French, they didn't get out of the first round, but they have shown in the bottom half how good they are compared to the rest. But they did not. They got that surprise loss against Latvia, who knocked them out, because that was their second loss. And of course, Canada with a team who beat them in the other game when it was really close at half time, but Canada ran away from them. So those two losses quickly knocked France out, and they were in the previous big one, the Olympics, they were the team to beat. They got in the gold medal game, and they really exhausted Slovenia for the chance to qualify for that gold medal game. So Slovenia and Luka Doncic, their claim is they got exhausted in a really close game against France, and then they had to play off for third v fourth instead of for gold, and they were a bit fatigued. Well, they got their revenge on us, sad to say, but they were too good for us this time. Where to next for Australia? Well, that's a great question. Where to next for Oz? We've got to find another Paddy Mills. How do we replace that man's motor, his skill, and his brilliance in the moment for Australia? Every time they need him, every time the Spurs needed him in the NBA finals there way back against Miami, this guy steps up right at the right time. And despite his age, he nearly did it again last night there. You saw in the 33 minutes, he hit 3 or 4 pointers just when it looked like he's busted. This guy's got something. We need to build a statue for Paddy Mills. Maybe one for Ingles too later. But Paddy Mills, how do we find another Paddy Mills with his zip and his motor and sense of the time? Surround Giddy with shooters. If he's going to be the future, we've got to get the right players around him. Giddy himself needs a three. He can't be just hitting that 0 from 2 or 3 like he did last night. He needs to be some sort of a threat, at least. Even Luka Doncic, everyone thinks, wow, he's great. And he'll take these beautiful step backs. But there's many games where his three-point percentage isn't as good as you think. Sometimes lower than the NBA league average, despite all the points he scores. But he's a threat from out there. He's a danger. So we need some sort of even occasional weapon from Josh Giddey. We need to solve the bigs. Duop Reith was very good, but a lot of it happened because Jock Landale was hurt, but we should have brought another big in ASAP, but we didn't. And consequently, we had players we didn't play much, like Goulding. We could have maybe put a big in the squad, emergency, just there before the game started. But they need to be mobile, one mobile big that can shoot. Maybe one old style, if that's the sort of supply we've got of bigs, a big heavy big to stand against those Vucevic type players and hold their ground against a really traditional big 7-footer. But we need a mobile big as well. If it's going to be someone like Xavier Cooks, he needs a 3 or some sort of mid-range jump shot just outside the key, because he seems to be a little limited in the key there, and a little bit of a question mark on his free throw, but maybe that'll come. And we need a banger that can shoot. Nick Kay, he was carrying us this time, and as you saw, he can occasionally sneak up to 8 or 10 points, but and if he gets his feet under him, he can hit a 3. But we need 1 or 2 of those. And as we saw in that game, I think he only had 3 points total. We need a little bit more out of that power forward spot if we're going to be in contention for anything. Sean at Abbey Takeaway, what's next in FIBA? Good timing, Sean. Brazil play Latvia. That has got to be a cracker. The two people who've surprised everyone. Brazil, Latvia, that's one to look forward to tomorrow. So Brazil, Latvia. Tomorrow also another cracking game. Oh, it's just plenty to watch, particularly while the NBA's off. How good has this FIBA World Cup been? Germany versus Slovenia. So Luka Doncic versus our great friend, another Laker there in the form of Dennis Schroeder. Just a rival, Austin Reeves. He himself did a pass, might have been with his preferred right hand, but it was closer into the traffic, round his back. Bounce pass through between two tight defenders, right down near the low post, to a cutting Mo Wagner, another Laker, for the slam dunk, big angry dunk by Mo Wagner. So Germany, Slovenia, one to look forward to. The Dominicans, who've lost one, and the Serbs, who have both had a little surprise there, are going to have to take each other on for survival. USA, just to continue their dominance, versus Lithuania. Can someone show any ability to upset this USA team? Montenegro nearly did it. So bigs that could shoot and big guards, and they stayed the distance. Just that couple of minutes where the USA flexed their muscle and got away from them late in the fourth quarter. Spain, they have to now come back, and Canada, one of these is going to be out. This is great. FIBA. Plenty of games. So Spain, the surprise loser, and Canada, the surprise loser. One of them's going home, or not going on anyway, after this round. What else can you go to? Please go to the podcast. We put one down yesterday, the Larry Lakers dribbling chit chat. We looked at Luka, locals, and versus the world. We interviewed 5 young fellows. We went really local. One of the school officials there at one of the schools in rural New South Wales that watches and listens to the show put out a shout out and said, can you come down and interview some of the young people here, as they're in a number of finals in sport and Cinderella sort of stories. A small school, some of these kids travelling, I think it was 3.5 hours each way, so 7 hours travel twice a week down to the capital of their state. So they're in New South Wales, so they're going to Sydney, and so that's 7 hours travel twice a week, and then that's for training, and then again on the weekend for 2 days of sport. So these kids are putting in 21 hours at least in travel. So, and then still finishing a school week and have sort of junior contracts, a bit like the baseball minor league feeder programs. These guys are juniors for the National Rugby League in some cases. And there's also some chatter about the school getting into the third round of the 15s knockout competition for their state championship for the first time ever. So please have a listen to that. Like, subscribe, get the notifications. We'd love that. Ring the bell. And please comment. We'd love to get the discussion going, as we have from Jay Foy at B-Balls of Joy there, Tim Huggs at Destination Anywhere, I think it was Sean at Abbey Takeaway, I think it was Mouse in the Soccer House, and a couple of others there. Thanks for your questions, and we look forward to catching you next time. Have a safe week.